Hey guys, we are back with Messy on Purpose, and I have Siah with me today. I said that right?
Yeah.
As I questioned myself as I was saying it. So I have Siah here with me today, and we were discussing names just a few minutes ago because both of us have names that everyone just messes up.
Yeah.
And we just gotta.
Yeah.
So, Siah, if you want to go ahead and give a little introduction on yourself, and then we'll dive in from there.
Yeah.
Oh, Siah, I'm saying, did I just mess it up? See? Siah.
Remember
I knew I was going to do that.
No, I
knew it.
know. It's because we talked about it, so don't worry. But I didn't want you to keep doing it. Just
Oh,
because.
yeah. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See you later.
Yes, yeah, I overthought it as that was counting down. I was like,
Don't say
I better
it.
say this right, and then I said it wrong. Oh my God.
Always happens. I know. But anyway, you got it.
Do you want to go ahead and do a little introduction on yourself?
Sure. So, okay. Let me see. All I've ever done is health education. My whole background has been in public health. I've worked in clinics. I worked at the college level, teaching health, nutrition, women's health. I've worked in classrooms. I've been a high school health teacher. And I worked on the obesity prevention side, but my family had eating disorders. So even when I was really talking about preventing eating disorders, and before eating disorders were like as, they were always a thing, but like they're definitely much more talked about and diagnosed.
When you're talking about like eating disorders with your family, what type of eating disorder? Because it obviously can go both ways, right? You can not eat and you can eat too much.
Oh, yeah. And it's a spectrum. I really would say it's a spectrum. So my family, I think we hit the whole gamut. Like, so we'd had, I have one member who had anorexia. My dad had, a lot. Like, there was definitely binging. He was a marathon runner, which I think hides, I think a lot of marathon runners do have, athletes, but marathon runners. My grandmas were always dieting. In college, I'd say I had definitely body dysmorphia and some restrictive. I was down to a very low weight. But yeah, then we've also got some people on the other end where I would say probably some bulimia in there, but I don't totally know. They weren't diagnosed. Anyway, and I would also say we're not that unusual. It's just, I decided enough, and I called attention to it, and I started to see it in my daughter, and I was like, no more. Because this has been at least 3-generation pattern. And it's an unhealthy coping tool is what it is. So I was like, some people have alcohol. This is how our family does it, and we're gonna stop now. So that's my, it was that combination of my education and my professional background and my personal background that brought me to where I am now.
So, with kind of how you grew up, what was the things that you noticed as a kid that kind of led you into having the same type of issues?
I didn't have the same type of issues in a lot of ways because I could see that it wasn't normal, but I didn't know. Like, way back, I found a letter I had written to my dad, and it was all these jokes about how we have to wait for Christmas until you come home from your run. And I was like, wow, I really knew, I didn't know what it was. And it was normalized. It was like celebrated. Oh, your dad is a marathon runner and your mom is so thin. And, it was so celebrated. So there was part of me that did not embrace that, and I was more aware. But I will say, there was a lot of food for celebrating, which I think a lot of cultures do anyway, and then almost like not eating for punishment, or when you're restricted and very careful, that means you're so empowered, and no, I was starving, that's not normal. And but in college, I was so scared to gain the freshman 15 that my family talked about and friends talked about, that I went the other way, and I was so scared to eat. And I think the stress also, and I went to San Diego State, and it was like very body. I was from Northern California, and my friend and I who went there were like these people don't wear clothes, and they're all tan and beautiful. And to this day, my daughter went there, and it's still kind of that same pressure, unspoken pressure. But so I think being around it and then being stressed, that was my go-to tool,
Just kind of how you adjusted to everything.
Yeah. And seeing, like, I liken it to alcohol, because if you see somebody, children of alcoholics kind of do one of two things. Either they do the same or they want nothing to do with it, And
Did your family have any substance abuse problems too?
Mm-mm. It was really the food and the restriction, however they chose to handle it.
Interesting. What did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a psychologist, and my mom's a teacher.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But I will say it was the 80s, and they weren't that far off from what others did. Diet talk back then, I remember getting 17 magazine, and it was like, the cover would say, like, how to stay at 800 calories a day, and cigarette ads, and Slim Fast. Like, it's not all my family's fault, because the culture was very supportive of that. Oh, and no carbs, which made us all hungry, because we were only carbs. I'm thinking of today, only carbs. And therefore you weren't getting protein or fat, so a lot of girls weren't menstruating. I lost my period college year too, because I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah, so getting too skinny will cause you to lose your menstrual cycle.
Or too heavy. It really is, like, you mentioned, like, that other side of it. And I do want to say that actually statistically, the majority of people with eating disorders are of a normal or overweight, not under.
That's definitely changed, right? So, like, back around the time you're talking and like when you grew up, that was like the time where you were supposed to be very thin, 100 pounds or less. Like,
yes.
there was a stigma on being over 100 pounds. Like, people would, do whatever it took to be 100 pounds or less, 90 pounds.
For sure. And calories under 1,000. And there was no science ever behind it, or medical.
And that low fat thing. It was like a big low fat.
Oh my God. Honestly, all carbs, like big plates of pasta. And I was always hungry because that wasn't filling,
It's
but you're
filling,
right.
But what it is carbs. Those types of carbs are like fast absorbing. So then you're hungry very shortly.
You burn them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just this horrible cycle, yeah. And they made all these fat-free products, too, that everybody thought was great. It was really bad. So, yeah.
Different time, for sure. Granted, I don't think the whole low-carb thing is a good thing either. I think that you have to have a balance of everything.
Totally. When I work with clients, they come to me, especially women my age, who are now, like, menopausal, and a lot of my friends, like, when we go out to eat, they're like, low carb. And you know what? Ever since I started going, I actually am craving a whole grain carb. And then I'm more satisfied, and my body's doing better now, like with menopause, with everything, because carbs are important. It's the chips and the cookies and the cakes. Those are the carbs that are no-nos, and that has gotten completely lost. So
Processed food and sugar.
Yes. Like, maybe that's what we need to talk about more. Yeah.
Yeah. No, really, it's really our general diet. The things that people are, like, eating all day and then say they don't eat anything.
Right. Yes. It's because it's nothing of substance, So
they didn't eat a meal.
Exactly. But I don't know why I'm overweight or I'm having this problem. And it's like, let's just eat. And then a lot of times when I present it, people go, that's so much food. And I'm like, I bet you anything it's far less than what you're eating now, but we don't know what you're eating now. It really is. And it's...
Do you dive in with them on what they're eating currently? Because that's what I do with people. Like, I'm like, well, what are you eating right now?
Yeah. If it's not somebody who's in the middle of a big eating disorder, you know, that's because I'm not a dietitian, but if people like menopausal women or anybody's coming to me and they're aware of their eating disorder, then a lot of times, yeah, it's like, hey, let's just get 3 balanced meals a day in there with 3 macros, and let's not even like weigh it out right now. Just kind of do that for a week and sit back and observe how it's really about how are you satiated. You know, nobody ever asks that. Like, you should feel satisfied after a meal. Move on to your day until the next 4 hours. You know, and then you should be a little bit hungry again. Or that's the other thing. If I eat breakfast, I'm so hungry. Well, you're actually supposed to be hungry. So we've just messed it up in our society.
And then I think too now it's like a different kind of spin. So it's pushing protein, and they're putting like protein like labels on everything, which is it's not good, because now we're just putting like this has 10 grams of protein in it, but we're not paying attention to the amount of carbs and fat that are in that's more than triple. And we're also pushing this whole like protein stuff, and that's not the answer.
Everything's balanced. Like, everything is balanced. And then with like the GLP-1s, I just had a client where I said, hey, don't forget to eat your vegetables and your fruits, because you're gonna be less hungry. And one of the biggest problems is people become malnourished. You know, it's so great that I'm not eating, but like, oh my gosh, food actually keeps us alive and prevents diseases. So that really scares me. I work with a lot of people on the GLP-1, and I'm there to remind them to exercise and to eat, again, 3 balanced meals a day with 3 macros, and don't forget the fruits and vegetables, because that's getting forgotten.
And I don't know. I don't totally agree with using those. I think you miss learning the habits. And like, if you don't have the habits, the moment you go off of this, you're going to turn around and do the exact same thing. It's not any different than getting the surgery and then you didn't learn the habits. You have to get it reversed.
Seen anybody yet come off of it, you know, and I'm not the one.
It's still a fad, though. People are still on it.
Yes, right. Well, and like, I was very, very against it for my clients, and then I did start to see some health benefits. And as long as they are working with their doctor, I'm really concerned with people who are getting it online. And I've seen a lot of stuff where it might be an MD who's prescribing it, but there's no close. I've seen eating disorders from it. You're giving an anorexic a GLP-1. You're not. I don't know what kind of screening there is. So, you know.
Well, and it's just causing a different type. So basically, those are being used for the people that are overeating, and now they're turning into anorexic.
Yeah. Because
they're not eating. So it's really not the solution unless somebody's having severe health problems.
Right.
You shouldn't really use it. You should just have better habits.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, it can be complicated, though, because the habits for a lot of people with eating disorders, or like me who grew up with it, I was able to recognize it and learn it, and my education and experience made me realize the bigger picture. But if you grow up with it, then some of it you just learn and you think is healthy. And, you know, it's just, again, food has lost its purpose, where it's supposed to sustain us and to nourish our body and give us energy. And it's just become a tool and a weapon, really, you know, in our society, instead of what it's gotten complicated. And so,
well, and I feel like there's so much false information out there. I grew up with an eating disorder as well. So my mother many times would make comments that would cause me not to eat. I've been bulimic. I've thrown my food up many, many times. I had friends that would try to force me to eat. It literally, my senior year, one of my, multiple friends actually made fun of me and called me Bones because I was so skinny in my senior photo. And so I've been there, and it takes a lot of work, but you can develop the habits you need to have more of a control over your wants, your needs, and your habits.
Yeah. No, you definitely can. Did you get professional help or did you do it yourself?
Nope. I did it all myself, and all it was just diving straight into myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I think if you can do that, there's so many morbidities that occur with eating disorders, like depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, or trauma. And if people have those other things going on, I think it's harder for them to do that.
Well, it's not easy. It's never easy. It wasn't easy for me. I had plenty of trauma. I had plenty of other crap I have to figure out and do. But it's possible is what I'm getting at. And whether you need help or not, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do it by yourself. I'm just saying it's possible, and you don't need a cheat to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And it's awesome that you did that too. I had sort of had that similar experience too, but I worry about saying it just because I don't think everybody can do that,
But the problem is, I think they can do it. They just don't believe in themselves and aren't willing to do the work and sit in the suffer that it takes to get through it.
That's the part. That is the part. And for many different reasons, but that's the part that's so hard. Just like, and I always bring it back to alcoholism just because I think more people understand or know somebody who's alcoholic. At least I feel like people own that a little bit more than an eating disorder even. So it's a little more secretive with eating disorders, but it's kind of that same thing. Like you have to, it's the awareness, and that's hurtful. And then to look in the mirror and go, hey, I gotta deal with this pain, and what.
But we have to do that with everything.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's not just like the little habits and stuff. It's everything every day. Do you want a hard life to continue into the future, or do you want to do the hard work now to have an easier life later? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I agree. Having to dig deep.
It's not fun, but it's totally worth it.
And, like you said, like whether you do it alone or not, recognizing if you do need help, getting that support. Because sometimes it's really hard for people to reach out. And
even if you help somebody, they have to want the help too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a huge problem too. You can ask for help. I've had people ask me for help with different things, especially like the obesity problem and people wanting to lose weight. And then you give them every tool you possibly have, and they do nothing with it. And so unless they're willing to do it and they're ready to do it and they're going to make the commitment, we can't force anyone to do anything.
No, I say all the time, you can't lead you can't lead the horse. You can lead the horse to the water. You can't make them drink, and that's 100%. Like the best. I definitely have clients like that where I just kind of listen because I've given them the tools and they're just not ready. And you know what? Maybe like in 6 months, they all of a sudden will be. So that's not my job to make them ready. I can't.
Well, don't hold back on the work that you've put in. Like, it's okay to say, I did the work, I did this, and I've made it this far. You can too, because I think if you kind of just level out with like the same level they're at and that's it, you're not telling them like, look, anyone can do this. Yes, it's empowering to see other people do it. So don't hold back on that story, girl.
Yeah. I do. It's not, here's the thing though, like I was trained to not share personally, but I probably share personally more than a lot of coaches. And I have to say, most of the time, this is the comment I get. Thank you for telling me that, because I think I am in a unique position because of all that I've seen and experienced myself and the professional background. So, like when my daughter had a therapist for eating disorder, she was, especially teenage boys too, but there was something about, especially my teenage daughter, but it was common. They are right, and they don't want to let go of that eating disorder. No, I can't let go of this. It's it's their control. And so her therapist was very, very thin, and she said, I'm going to ask her today if she has an eating disorder. And I said, let's just go to therapy, get done, you don't have to. I'm asking her because I'm not going to take help from somebody who can't help herself. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can't argue with that. You have a right to do that. So she gets out of her appointment, and she was also very sassy at the time. So I was like, this isn't going to go well. So she comes out and she goes, she told me no, and I know she does. And they said, okay, well, we'll find a new one. So I always remember my daughter, like that was very important to her. And not that in therapy or coaching, we are told it's not about you, turn it back to the client, but there is something very empowering and also more trustworthy when someone's been there.
Well, how do you help somebody if you don't even know what they're going through?
Yeah, I personally think so too. I mean, you can be trained, but I think there are some of us who are like, I just need that authenticity, that like, I really know what you've been through.
Well, it's different. Okay. So yes, you can be trained on anything, and being trained on like being a medic or something, that is totally different than understanding the psychological damage that some things cause. Yeah. So like having an eating disorder and how it was the root cause and where it came from, only somebody who has the similar situation is going to understand that. And that it's harder for me to understand the overeating. I don't understand that as much because I haven't been on that side of it. And yes, I can help with it, but I don't understand it to the core, and somebody who's actually been through it would be able to help better. Right,
yeah. And then you say that, right? Like that's why people do specialize in different areas, but some people won't own it, So that's what I run across a little bit professionally. But I do me, and I do think that's why I get the clients I get, because they want that authenticity. I just always think what I would want, what my daughter wanted, what helped us,
Yeah, and I think sharing your story, just like this podcast, the reason I have people on to tell their story is because this resonates with people. And then you're not alone. Maybe there's somebody sitting there that's going to be listening to this podcast that's like has an eating disorder, doesn't know anyone around them that has one, and can kind of relate to it. And then now they understand they're not alone in their mess. And that's kind of the whole idea. And when you share your story and your vulnerability with other people, it relates on a different level.
It does.
You can connect with people differently. If you've never had a true connection, you'll never understand that. And most people don't because they're not honest.
Exactly. And that's especially, I really learned a lot from my 16-year-old daughter at that time, because she needed that lady to, when somebody's severely anorexic, it's hard to hide, and so it would have been nice, but yes, professionally, she had no obligation to do it. But when you're talking to a teenage girl you're telling, kind of guiding what to do, it doesn't come through as authentic. And those kids, they're going to call you out. So they know if we're lying or not more than anybody, I think. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, they totally they don't hold back. Whereas we've learned as we get older, some conversations are just better not to even engage it.
Yeah, but I was like, this isn't good for me to be telling her to not trust if this bothers. You know what I mean? It was part of her healing process.
Well, and if she didn't trust the person, why would you want that person to help her?
No. It wasn't going to work, so I was like, oh, God, okay, now we got to go find someone else.
Because you can't trust you can't not trust somebody and then get help from them, because you'll never trust them enough to take the help.
Absolutely. And the whole system, I won't see where we went, but they gave me a big binder, and I kept it, and I'm like, wow, that is so just like cookie cutter. And what I learned, I called it's a spectrum. You cannot, they were trying to put her in a room with people who had nose tubes and who were suicidal, and she was just sitting there like interviewing people. She's got her PsyD, and she worked in an eating disorder residential because of that experience. But that is not a cookie cutter disease.
And I don't
everybody,
think any type of therapy or coaching even has a one
I
size fits
agree.
all.
But some of these programs, I think it's more cost effective and easier for them to
Of
just put you
course.
all in a room and then tell me as the parent I'm making a huge mistake by pulling her out. And I had to sit with that for a little bit, but I always tell people, you know what? In the end, you are the parent and you know your kid. And even when something traumatic like this is going on and experts are weighing in, I still say trust your gut on that because you know your kid. I mean, like I said, I know it's back to family values. We're about honesty and authenticity. And if that didn't feel right to her, I'm not living my values and what I taught her, you know?
Yeah, and you wouldn't have felt right keeping her there and forcing her
Oh,
to go through that
I was
either.
sick. I think it was 2 days. And then we found somebody else and it was, yeah, way easier to get her back to where we needed to be. So,
It's crazy how like you don't really realize it until somebody like says something sometimes,
yeah.
like your daughter had to say something, you didn't even see it, but she was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, like this doesn't feel right. And I taught them to be that way. So I would have been really confused. I would have made it worse, you know? But it's hard
Yeah.
when you're going up against doctors, and you're like, they should know, like, but you always get a second opinion. Not everybody
Yeah.
comes from the same pool of thought. Or
Well, and what I don't like is it's almost like money based, right? They don't care about the individual because if they
yeah,
did, they would say, "Oh, I understand this doesn't work for you and that you need somebody
I
else.
was
I have a
none
few
of that.
recommendations."
Yeah. Mm-mm. None of that. All I like because I didn't have other insurance, so they're like, "This is what you have to do," and they were force feeding her, and eating is not her problem. It was over exercising and not eating like the three macros because she was an athlete and coaches were saying different things, and I kind of lost control at home because that's the thing with the athletic world in nutrition. They're really listening to their coaches and their peers. I'd say 3 other girls on her soccer team had eating disorders, but when we were honest about why she wasn't playing, moms like felt so bad for me. Oh no, I feel so bad. And I thought, well, your daughter's got something going on too, but we face our stuff and it's harder and it's more hurtful and uglier, messier. But that's how we get through it.
Well, and I
So,
think some people, like parents, for example, so you're looking at what you went through, and you're like, I don't want my daughter to go through this. Some people don't even unpack what they went through and what
so
they've gone and like what they're dealing with, and then what they pass on. So to them, it's just normal.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, like you said to me, like what, or ask me, what did you learn? How did you learn? And I would see my dad restrict and then reward. And Friday night was a big dinner, and he'd go on his 12-mile run over the weekend, and then it'd be a nice Sunday night dinner, And so, but it wasn't ever about hunger. It was restrict and reward, and that was really confusing.
And it's surprising that you actually caught on to that, because that one is such a tricky one. That's one most people don't see.
Yeah, it didn't. I think the biggest thing is the moods related to, I think, his hunger and then the anger at him. It was basically a binge restrict cycle. I don't know what it was, whether it was a form of bulimia in a lot of ways, because it was so restrictive. And it was very much like exercise. Eating disorders are kind of purge binge, and it was also kind of bulimic, and it was kind of anorectic because he was very thin. It was a lot. But I think I knew the moods weren't okay. I knew my grandma did stuff. I knew it was all around me. And I don't know, it just really bothered me. And I
It
was,
probably helped having a clear vision because there wasn't added substances too. I feel like a lot of households have the added substances.
yeah, that's
TV.
true. I could see clearly, right, what was going on.
Yeah.
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 No, probably. You're right. That is another thing that goes on with it too. So,
Because you have a lot of households that have the eating disorders one way or the other. It doesn't matter which area you
totally.
are.
Yeah.
And then they, on top of it, they drink, they smoke weed, they do
Yeah.
prescription drugs.
Yeah.
And so all of that plays more into it. Whereas like if your dad wasn't abusing things,
Right.
but he was doing this and his moods were all over the place and it's just odd. Yeah, you're going to be like, wait a minute, why?
Well, I think he abused exercise, and he ultimately abused his body, and also abused food in a lot of ways. Like, it wasn't hunger, I don't think it was ever about hunger. I mean, he literally, I remember it was coffee after a big run. He'd pack his brown lunch bag with always non-fat yogurt and 2 carrots.
That non-fat gets me every time.
Right? I know. And then dinner, my mom would make him a special plate with all kinds of weird stuff on it. So, but you know what? He'd eat beyond the plate. Then he'd eat and bit. I feel like tell his secrets now, but I do feel, because he passed, and he passed from heart failure, which is related to an eating disorder. And I talked to the cardiologist about it, and she said, your dad did not die from an eating disorder. And I said, I don't think you know how, like, this was his whole life. And she said, bottom line, they wouldn't listen about the habits. And if they would listen to my female relatives. And I thought that was interesting. And because my dad was a psychologist, and he was very respected, it was kind of unfair in a lot of ways,
There was no help in helping him because everyone around him normalized it.
He didn't want help, but they didn't want to see it either, because I'm not sure they knew what to do with a male in his 40s and on, because it can be disguised so much easier from them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, men, it doesn't happen as often, right? Or if it does, it's usually overeating. It's not the undereating. They're not usually anorexic or bulimic.
But lately they are. Our young boys, more than 1 in 5, are going to be diagnosed or currently diagnosed with an eating disorder. So this is new, and they think a lot of it is social media related. It's the young boys.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's more bulk up for them, and they call it there's a name for it, like muscle something.
They're using substances and things too to enhance. That's a huge thing, and they're using it too young.
Yeah. Oh God. My son, I gotta watch, because he's really into working out for baseball, and I know he watches some of those athletes. And it's like, I need to see what's on there, because I see the creatine and but I worry about the messaging. That's what I
Well, and that stuff, it's really, honestly, I don't trust a lot of the hormone places anymore. So I've even went into them, and they gave me high doses of stuff that I didn't need. And I questioned it, right? I was just like, well, I don't need any of this. And most people, luckily my husband does a lot of research, and we knew more than your average person. But your average person goes in, gets their blood work done, and then they're handed this prescription for 10 different things that they don't even really need.
No. Yeah. It's always better to not, to find a healthier way for yourself. But I think
it's good to know those details, but you don't need supplements for everything.
No, oh yeah, that's what you're talking about, the supplements. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or just supplements, hormones, supplements, stuff like that too. Not just the million different supplements you can buy. Most of them are crap.
They are, and it's a $1 billion industry, and it's just, pretty much the science says if you eat a well-rounded diet with all your fruits and vegetables, then you're getting what your body needs. You don't, unless you have a deficiency, you don't really need the supplements. But there's
it depends on what you're doing, obviously, right? There's certain people that need them for certain things, because bodybuilders, they're going to need supplements in order to compete.
Right.
But not your average person doesn't need a lot of supplements. You don't need a whole cabinet full of them.
No. No, and I actually had a client not that long ago that said, "Well, I've stopped eating protein because I'm not working out." And I was like, "Well, are you like just a normal workout?" That I'd never heard that before, but she's heard protein and workout, but nobody talks about what an appropriate amount is.
Well, people also don't talk about the fact that like a protein supplement, so a protein powder is just a supplement if you need more protein. You should be
Right.
eating your
It's
protein.
your food, yes. Yeah, so much that's not. And to be very honest, and I've had doctors tell me this, they don't have very much nutrition in medical school. And a lot of clinics or whatever don't even have a dietitian on board. So there's nobody guiding, but
Well,
yet
I don't really trust our system. So
right,
I don't feel like we're 100% for health. We're 100% for profit, which is a
yeah,
problem too.
right.
So doing your own research and talking to people who've educated themselves is so important.
Yeah, yeah, and just being careful. Like, who's your source too? Like it's yeah. So that one was really interesting to me. Like, oh wow,
Yeah, I've
just
never heard somebody stop eating protein, but I could see where they would get the
I totally,
connection.
I totally understood it just because she didn't know. Oh,
Yeah.
but when I go back to the gym, I'll eat protein, and I thought, well, what amount are we even talking about here? Like, she thought protein was
Like,
bad.
yeah, which is so weird. Like, I get like, okay, you stopped adding protein, maybe you stopped
Maybe,
using the
yeah.
supplement or something, but
Right.
like, just not eating protein is insane.
No, I know. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on.
Well, and then do you come across this too, where like it's very simple, right, to eat healthy, get exercise, and like sometimes the exercise, it's not a one size fits all, right? Like not everyone can do the same training, not everyone can do the same things, and it's very unique in that process. But it's very simple in the sense of getting more, moving more,
Yeah,
and eating the right amount,
right.
and I think a lot of people won't believe you when it's simple. Some people are like, well, somebody else did this diet and they
Oh,
lost so much weight, or that somebody did CrossFit and man, they just lost all the weight, and you know.
no, I run into that all the time. All the time. And it's interesting. It doesn't even really matter the age, but I would say some of my younger clients, like 20s, this has been a bigger problem. It could, and I said, try to stay off social media because she was like, I don't know, carbs are bad. This, she had all the fasting, this and that. And, I was just, I couldn't believe all and it was all conflicting. No wonder she was confused
Mhm.
because so many, and these people are not experts. So I think that's one of the biggest dangers is just what are you hearing? It was hard to help her though because she was so sure that she had heard this 10, 15 different sources and a friend. It's always a friend too. So
Oh yeah, that never helps. They heard it because of social media too.
yeah, a whole different avenue. So that one was really interesting, and it went on for months. Like she'd be frustrated, and I said, "Are we still on social media?" Yes, So, but that's
Well,
their.
and it's hard to completely disconnect from something like
It
social
is.
media, right? Like it's needed for so many different things. I mean, just
It
this
is.
alone, putting this information out there goes right on social media, right? And
Yeah,
like
it's like I'm a hypocrite. Yeah.
and like no, and like it's just hard to disconnect. But then when you also don't do your own research, which most people don't, most
Yeah.
people want to be told
Yes. What?
everything. They don't want to look for it. They don't want to dive deep into it. That's why people watch the news and believe Chicago is, just overran with gangs or whatever. Like all of that is just being fed to you, but you're
Right.
not actually doing your own research.
Yeah. 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 All of us can do our own research and should for whatever your viewpoint or whatever. Like, get the information you need to make what you feel is an educated decision that makes you, like, again, I go back to your values. What is it that you make your decisions on? I think that's always really interesting because most of our decisions are made on our values. Whether we like simple little decisions to bigger decisions. And I think that's a good compass.
I think what will fix society is people thinking more for themselves.
Yeah, good way to put that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because we're all so different. And we're also lucky right now that we have choices, right? So, but I can't make that choice. And that's part of coaching is I can't tell people what to do. But I can say, oh, these are your values, then let's align your definition of success, your health choices on your values. And
it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you more comfortable, right? Because it's not my place to tell someone what to do. So.
And that's what you're there for as like a coach or as,
Yes.
you know, a therapist or whatever. You're really there to kind of help them, guide them. But you can't do the work for them.
Exactly. Like it's
and
to
you can't
guide
choose.
them to their personal best. That's what I like to say. Like, you know, but yeah, you have to want that. You know.
Yeah, it's like you can hire someone. What cracks me up is like people are like, "Oh, I'm going to hire a trainer and get into the gym," and then you're like, "Okay, you're going to hire, but you're ready to do the work because you can hire a trainer and still not do the work." Like, because some people will hire a trainer one day a week and then do nothing the rest of the week, and then wonder why the trainer's not working.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, how often are we going? Yeah, it's
or. Another one, speaking of like eating disorders, what about the people you give, you know, kind of their macros to them, right? And they're tracking, but every weekend they overeat by like 250 calories. Every weekend they drink more than they eat. You know, they absolutely destroy it. They're perfect all week long, and then Saturday hits and it's gone.
Yeah. Some of them call it like the either like the 80-20 or like what do they call them? Free days, or, you know,
like cheat meals or
days. My cheat days. And I mean, that's kind of the thinking that my dad had. You know, it's like I ran and I was good all day, so I can just overeat. But part of it was because he was hungry. You know, like that's why we eat all day long. But that I still think. It's almost like binge drinking too. Like, okay, so you're good. It's still a problem. It's still binging and not good for your system.
And like, I recommend people. So I hate cheat days. I will never ever tell somebody to have a cheat day.
Yeah.
Ever, unless like they're completely under eating and then they need like a reset.
Yeah.
But like you should. Your average person doesn't need a whole cheat day. They need maybe a cheat meal that fits within their macros.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
So like you go get in and out, but it still fits in your macros.
Right. But it's not a meal that you would eat during the week or whatever. But yeah, like it I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
It gets that fix, right? It gets you that like nice hearty meal that you've been craving.
Yeah. But like it shouldn't be again that reward or that cheat. That's where we get in trouble.
Well, and that's also, it's messing with your mind.
Yes.
Thinking that you need this cheat or you deserve this cheat.
Deserve.
That's not how it works. We're just supposed to be generally healthy, and then occasionally you have something, but not every week I need a cheat because I was good all week. Like that just defeats the whole purpose.
There is a lot of that mentality. And I think that was a diet a while ago where it was like the 80-20 or something like that, where you get 2 free days. I remember that being a thing. And so that's a mentality that's out there too.
And then if you show them the math on that,
God, yeah.
Then it really hits home.
Yeah, it's so unbalanced. And I think I do start a lot of times by saying there's 3 reasons we eat. I already mentioned it. It goes to those 3 reasons to stay alive, you know, and it's just gotten so skewed. And that's why I do think it's a generational thing. Like, I'm curious if my great-grandparents had something going on, you know, and they would have been like, early 1900s. I mean, I don't know what was going on back then, but like my grandparents were Depression era. It's interesting. And that I do a lot of that, like where you're noticing patterns. Is it generational, or just maybe it's this generation, so, you know, social media. But if you notice it and it doesn't feel right, then it could be a coping tool that you want to shatter that pattern.
Well, and like something that maybe isn't generational, but you've developed could be generational if you don't fix it.
There you go. That's a great point too. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like it stops now. And my dad.
And that's being aware.
Yeah, yeah. But that's back to what we were saying is like it hurt to see it in my daughter. Hurt because when I had 2 little girls, I remember saying to friends, I just don't want them to have eating disorders. I just don't want them to have eating disorders. And then it showed up, and I mean, I definitely had contributions to it. My daughter will tell you, like, she went gluten-free and she did all this stuff. And one day I said, she was going away for a weekend and she wanted me to buy her all this special food, and it was really expensive. And then she just started eating all the grapes. And I was like, okay, this is really expensive food. Like, are you hungry? Let's get a balanced meal. I'm never eating grapes again. I mean, just like, so I felt horrible that I said, stop eating the grapes. But, you get in trouble for everything. But they're very sensitive. But at the same time, like, maybe I could have approached that differently. I'm sure there were things that I contributed that to. She would call me out on it, But I didn't know better, even though professionally I did. It's not how I grew up. And I had to, like, say, enough. This is enough,
Well, and sometimes teenagers overreact. We've both been there, right?
You. Yeah.
We overreact. And I think asking you to stop eating so many grapes because they're expensive isn't really saying you're fat, don't eat that.
Thank you. I have guilt over that, so thank you.
Yeah, no. I think that's just a teenager thing, You take something and you're just like, I just remember being a teenager and it would just build up. And then
yeah.
Oh, why would you say that?
Yeah. And they turn it into my fault or whatever. But, it is, It's like, no more. We're gonna fix this, and it just hurts to look at it. Like, oh, what did I do that modeled? But it's never a parent's fault. It's all kinds of contributing factors. I think we
There's
have
so much.
Yeah, but it is psychological, social, environmental, and biological. So there's a lot of reasons a certain family would go that way. For lots of reasons. And then it's what you learn, and it's social opinions.
They blame the parents for everything, and yes, like, parents are at fault. Like, I can think of a million different things that my parents did better, but I also turned into the person I am today based on those actions, and I chose a different path because of some of the things that I seen.
Right. And most parents did the best they could do, and most of us can say, I actually see that you did the best you can, and then it's up to me to forgive and do better.
Yeah, and like, the only goal anyone should ever have as a parent is just your kids to have a better life than you had. It should always be better.
I think hopefully that's there, but
yeah.
But you have, therefore, to do that, I think somebody has to look at the weaknesses and figure out, I don't want to pass that on, or how did we get here, Yeah,
you come to that self-awareness of the things that are just not right, and you have to fix them.
Yeah, and I don't want to pass that on because I love them. Or that hurt me and that messed me up, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to face your demons.
Yeah. It's messy. It's very messy. It's a perfect word for it.
And there's not one person that doesn't have something.
Absolutely. But that's what I found difficult, again, sitting on the sideline with those moms and also doing the work I do. Don't act like you've got something. And so that's where sympathy and empathy became very obvious to me. It's like, sympathy, you don't want someone going, oh, I'm so sorry. Empathy is more like, we've got this, and I know it's hard. I don't know what an eating disorder is like, but we've got addiction, or, we've got depression, or, that's where we feel support and community. It's that not in our family. You poor thing. That's not helpful.
And it's just because they don't want to face things and they don't
Exactly.
want to talk about it. And it's honestly really sad because those people probably don't even realize what they're doing, but they could have just not said anything at all.
Right. Just there's no reason, but it's kind of this superiority thing, like, oh, not in our family, and I'm like, okay, good luck, you
They say
know.
it because it makes them feel better,
It does make
actually.
them feel better. Yeah, and that I don't sit well with that. Those are not my people. Those
No,
are not my
mine
people.
either.
I want and that's I try to be the same, like, hey, we've this is our thing, and we've all got something, because those people who do think that everybody else has this golden world won't reach out for help, because it's like, oh, I've got some weird thing going on here.
Yeah, it's honestly, it makes me sad in a way, but at the same time, again, you can't force people to be aware. You can't force people to make a change. You can't even force
Nope.
people to listen when you point something out.
Yeah.
So it's, I just, what I do is it's almost like, I guess it's just like I kind of make peace with some people are just the way they are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect me in any way. Granted, even if they say something directly to me, I understand where that's coming from. And a lot of times it's coming from insecurity. And you just have to kind of just write it off.
Oh,
It's
totally.
fine.
Yeah. Because if you want to be stronger, it takes a lot more energy to invest in you and what you're dealing with than to those little comments, And that's when you're healthy, and when you're getting off track is when those comments get you.
I actually just had my friend Leon, and he was talking about how, so he's a mentor for like film kids,
Hmm.
and he sees things in his little mentees that were bugging him, and he didn't, like, at first he didn't realize why, and he thought about it, and it was because there's things inside of him that were bugging him, and that was why all those were sticking out so bad. And it's amazing when you can come to that realization.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's like, got to look in the mirror, which is so, it's ugly sometimes.
Yeah. And
But
like
then
when you,
treat others better.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's free to be nice. Let's
Yeah,
be real.
right. Right.
And it's not that hard.
No, for some people, but if you're doing the right stuff, then it shouldn't be that hard to be kind to someone else.
Yeah, we should be able to be kind even in our like darkest moments. Honestly, some of the people that are going through the worst things or have been through the worst things are some of the nicest people you'll meet.
And sometimes it's because of that pain. It's like that pain makes them appreciate. Yeah, those are some of the people you're like, wow. If you can be kind and forgiving, why can't the rest of us be?
And it's a choice, right? We have two paths we can take no matter what our circumstances is. Whether it's growing up with an eating disorder, whether it's abusive parents, maybe you were molested as a child. There's so many circumstances that people go through, and most people don't even know they've went through them. But we
Right.
do have a path. We can choose to dwell in it and stay there and always let that control our every waking moment. Or we take another path where we face it, we deal with it, and then we move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's yeah, it's not always that simple for people. I look at it like that too.
And it is very simple. Again, just like eat less, move more. That is very simple, right? But people don't believe it's simple because either A, they don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
They're looking for the quick fix. Or B, they just don't want to face their problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the noise. Like, there's so many, you know. Yeah, and that's where I always say, like, let's clear out the weeds. Like, what are the weeds? I don't know how else to say it and get to the root of the problem. Like, the weeds to me are like the eating disorder, the alcoholism, the vaping. Those are the weeds, and something at the core is not being nurtured. That's why the weeds instead of blossoms are. I don't know. I have this whole thing I can
It's
visualize.
like what's growing because of what you're feeding.
Yeah. There you go. It's very
We came
visual.
together with it.
Yeah. Got a whole picture. Someone can paint it. So, but I feel like that's kind of what's going on, just to simplify it, you know.
Yeah, no, and it is very simple. Whatever you feed is what's going to grow.
Yeah.
Is it what you laid out there? And if you're feeding the weeds are going to grow. If you're feeding the plant, and nurturing it, and it's going to blossom, and you're not going to have as many weeds, but you're still going to have some weeds to
You're
pick
gonna
through.
have some weeds, totally. You don't get to have, life has bumps, and that's part of it too, is I think that a lot of kids today especially are just not, and this is like, I feel like trite, like everyone says this, but it's kind of true, is they don't want failure, they haven't experienced failure, and so there's this perfectionism thing going on, and that's where the unhealthy coping tools come in, like an eating disorder or vaping. Those are the ones I always go to, but there's plenty.
Oh yeah. And that's just what's trending, right? That's not everything. And there's still, every type of substance abuse or addiction issue is out there, and some teenager has got something.
Right. And we've got less control over them because of the phone, I have parents that are like, oh, I can't take the phone from them. I can't, that'll cause anxiety. Well, then do you know what they're seeing on the phone? There's, I don't know. Yeah, there's just a lot.
With the anxiety, do you feel like we kind of almost victimize anxiety too much? Because I feel like everyone's got anxiety, right?
I know.
We all have it. You jump on stage, I don't care if you're the most confident person ever, there is going to be a hint of anxiety, no matter what.
Yeah.
And now we're just like kind of babying it and telling everybody, oh, it's just anxiety. Oh, it's okay. It'll be okay. And I feel like we're just weakening these kids.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting is, I'm so confused by it, because growing up, like, I think I probably had anxiety, social anxiety, but my own dad and mom, teacher and psychologist, nothing was wrong. But I never needed to stay home from school. I never had any of these complicated situations. But then I look at the kids that I'm working with, and I'm like, gosh, it would have been nice if my parents could have known and had dealt with it. But I have so much grit, and I think all of those horrible failures that I had for making me who I am today, which, you hate hearing as a kid. Like, I remember my mom would say, you're just going to have more character. And I have so much character, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't need any more character. I don't need to fail anymore, But I get what she means now, and it's because I had to learn to pick myself up. So now when parents come to me, I'm just like really torn, because it's nice to be called out and maybe diagnosed. But there is a lot. And here's the thing, is like, anxiety actually is pretty much stress, but it's when it gets out of control. And if we could not make it a big deal, like my mom and dad were reactors, and I think that gave me anxiety. So if we could not freak out when we would see things in our kids, and just model good ways to be resilient, I think that it wouldn't be as complicated,
Something that came to mind with that is, when the little 2-year-old falls over, and either you baby it and it cries, or you say, it's okay, get up, and then they're fine.
Yeah, totally.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, totally. I remember that too. Like, my kids walked before 10 months, and I actually had a friend say, what did you do? Like, how did you get her to walk at 9 or 8 months? And I was like, do you think I put her in walking class? Because there's a class for everything. I really didn't know what she meant, but I watched her, and if she wouldn't let her kid figure out how to stand up. And it's that same thing. They're very low to the ground. Just let them fall, and they might cry. They're totally fine. But so I absolutely think there's too much of that going on.
I think we've fed into it. I get severe anxiety needs to be dealt with. Severe. But not all these people have severe anxiety. We all have natural anxiety.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm a super social person. I was not when I was younger, and I had anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think when you're younger too, you're going to have anxiety because new things are scary.
Yes.
They're still scary.
You haven't experienced it. Yeah. And I yeah, there's just too much protection. There's too much helicoptering. And it's, yeah, it's a thing. And I think that's important, like what you said. I like to explain to people anxiety and stress are normal human feelings. And so is sadness and some depression. We're all going to experience some of it sometimes. Do you have the tools to get back up? And so there are some concerns that this generation is missing that resiliency. And then I see parents freaking out about it. And I mean, again, we have a role in that. And, I can identify. When my kids fail or hurt, oh my God, there's not much worse. It's horrible. But when I failed, my mom was like, it's got character. You've got character. So I should, but I kind of think my generation was underparented, so we overparented. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping the next generation comes in the middle a little more.
We definitely need to level it out. It's like
Yeah,
one extreme over the other.
yeah,
And failure is great. I mean, you won't, like, trying new things is scary. You're going to have anxiety. Everything I've ever tried that's new, I'm filled with anxiety. I still get anxiety getting in front of people and talking. Granted, I do a podcast.
yeah.
Like, you think I'm on social media, I'm putting myself out there all the time, but
So
still on a
vulnerable.
stage, it still gets you. And I feel like without that anxiety and the trying new things,
Yes,
if you're told you're never supposed to have anxiety, and if you have anxiety, that's bad. Now you're not going to try anything new. You're never going to do anything. Now you're
totally.
never going to fail. You're never going to learn grit and what it takes to fall and fall and fall again until you're good at something.
Yep. And they're lacking that. They're lacking it. And I'm getting a lot of young people, and they either literally have not failed, or they this is new. Is like, and so far it's been young women who were athletes in college, and that everything was always mapped out at a high level, right? Like they were always like the golden one, and all of a sudden they're in their dream job and they're leveled out. Like, what's next? Like, what's the challenge? What am I supposed? It's really interesting. I mean, we've already got like the family or the failure to launch. The young men. There's a lot of women too, but have you heard of them? Like they're home
Yeah.
gaming and not. And I think like stuff we've been talking about is partly why. And then, but I feel like this is something new. Like late 20s, early 30s. Like I never had to make friends because I was on a team. It's interesting. And society has told them, marriage is next, babies are next, and it's just they're like, I've already excelled at everything. What do I do? It's just interesting.
Yeah, and like everything else is going to be failure before you succeed. So they
Yeah.
don't want to do that unless something's
Yes.
handed to them. And then we're
Yes.
now missing putting in the work. So you have these kids that'll go to college, get a college education, and
Check.
then turn around.
Check.
They don't get the job that's paying 100,000 a year, yet they're not going to take the 30,000 a year to get the experience they need to get that job.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And that's a problem. So
It's a problem.
it's like, yeah. And how do you undo a lot of that? That's what's that's what I'm like, wow. I keep finding new things that have kind of developed because of this pattern. And what's interesting to me is I thought it was worse because I watched it evolve for 17, maybe 21 years when I worked at the college and then 4 years at the high school and raising my own kids. And so that's why I was so fascinated in it. I really saw the mental health epidemic unroll in real time, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing them be adults and the struggles. And it's like, wow, that really was a problem. I knew it was a problem. And I was trying to not be a part of that. I was a part of it, but I was definitely hearing and talking to my students and my own kids. And now it's like, it's getting worse though. That's what
Do you
concerns me.
think we can even come back from it? Because here's the problem now. These kids that have been treated like this, where they
Yeah.
get babied, they've never had to work for anything, everything's laid out for them, it's easy, you're not supposed to have anxiety, never failed. Now they're going to have families.
Yeah.
How do we fix it if they're the ones having families next?
Well, what I find interesting is, and it's kind of like stuff you and I have said too. They're saying, I don't want to be that same way. I don't. My kid doesn't have to be perfect. My kid doesn't have to play sport. I heard one of them say to me, she's so hesitant to blame her mom, and we don't have to blame, but she'll say she did expect perfection. And it's so hard for her to say, and she's like 30. And I said, you don't have to feel guilty saying that. Eventually I think you'll get more comfortable. It's okay to call that out. It was a contributing factor. It impacted. But you don't want to do that, because that hurt you in some ways, And so
Yeah.
I do feel like they are aware of it. And what's interesting is I have a lot of clients who are expectant parents coming to me. And I thought, are you kidding me? I thought it would all be teenagers. These new parents I actually love working with, because they're what I always say is, let's start with your values, and let's start with how you define success. And those are things that put them in a journal, almost like a baby book. And then when tough times come up, go back to that. And they like that, because values got lost. It was all about a checklist. Is she an athlete? Is she a musician? Is she in the band? Or, it's like this checklist to get into college. And, you're not going to be successful if you don't. It's just a mess,
Well, and the whole college thing, I went to college, and to be honest, I've never used my degree. And I personally wouldn't recommend it unless it's something that absolutely needs a college education. You do not need this environmental bachelor master's degree to not even use it.
Yeah. No, well, let's at least talk more about community college or a trade. This is why I have them redefine. I love that tool. It's actually a worksheet that I give them, and I'm like, how do you define it? Okay, that is in line with your values and how you define success. So why do you have to go make a lot of money? Money was not in there in your values or your definition. Safety is, and all that, and money comes into play, but we're not the billions or whatever that society says is success.
Well, you're not making that with a college education most of the time anyways. A lot of doctors and lawyers don't even make that kind of thing.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It's just this false sense of reality.
Yeah. But that's why, let's come back to look at you and your family and tune out the noise. And I just think there'll be more happiness,
Yeah. I'm worried about the weakness in society.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not even just the younger generation. We have it, in all generations now.
Oh, totally.
With this whole mental health crisis, where we are over medicating people for things that they don't need to be medicated for.
Yeah. It's so complicated. It's I don't know. I'm not sure. All I can do is one client and family at a time, and break it down for them, and just hope. And I can see the ones, back to what you were saying, I can see the ones that are not gonna do anything different. But I love the ones who are okay, yeah, this is helping her, this helps me, and this is how I want to move forward. And those are the ones. There are enough of them that just keep fighting that I feel hopeful.
Yeah, and it helps having those few that really just shine, right? Because
Yes.
it makes you want to keep doing the work.
Right, like a teacher, right? There's enough that brings them down, but those students that they're so grateful that that's why you do your work,
Yeah. So what are your plans? So right now, So do you work under somebody else, or is this your own business? How does that
So
work?
I do work for somebody else part-time, but I have my own business. And that's
Okay.
where my heart is, because that's my own program that I developed, and it's evidence-based research, and it's 7 steps, and I call it Move Forward. And whatever the challenge, like, whether it's physical or mental, those are 2 of the steps that I've said 1,000 times. We start with values. We start with your definition of success. Do we need a medical team involved? Does a therapist need to be on board? Like, that piece needs, or doctor, that piece needs to be on board. And then just looking at your own strengths and weaknesses too, and looking at following your passions and not society's. And it helps, whether it's an eating disorder or failure to launch. I really support the parent, but I've been getting a lot more young adults. But my initial niche was going after parents of kids with eating disorders. But the eating disorder, if it's in full swing, a lot of times they're so overwhelmed that I'm more helpful before or after, not as much in the middle, or is this an eating disorder? I can really help send them in the right direction, or how do I prevent it from coming back, that kind of a thing. But it translates to all kinds of other depression. I mean, you name it. I think I've helped somebody with it, and I'm supposed to niche, but it stems to other situations.
Yeah, and I mean, having a system, but it being adjusted per kind of, I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's a system to follow.
Yeah. That was something I failed at, and I learned when my own daughter went through that. I'm like, absolutely, this is not every person that comes to me. It's like, yeah, you were raised differently, so you're going to have different way to move forward. I don't know how
different challenges to overcome.
Yeah, and strengths to build on.
Yeah. So what is your plan? Is your goal to basically move all into your coaching and get out of the kind of W-2 or?
Yeah, I mean, eventually that would be amazing. And like speaking, I do a lot of speaking and group events, group coaching as well. Yeah, there's just so much that can come from it. And like the podcast, I love the podcasts. I think they're fun. And I think there's so much that I hope can happen out there. I've written books. I have a couple books too. Shockingly, it's redefining success for every child, and also shattering the patterns of perfection. I just really feel so strongly about that's part of what's getting in our way.
Yeah, no, I love that. So are you going to start your own podcast?
I would love to start my own podcast. I don't know anything about I don't have the energy to take that on right now.
It's a lot to take on in the beginning, and honestly, you're going to I do everything myself, and it's a lot of work, but if you can pay somebody to edit and all of that stuff, that would save so much time.
Yeah. Well, I'll consult you someday.
Yeah, I can help you get it started.
I wouldn't do that to you. That's not fair. But I would, if I decide to do it, I'll ask you.
Yeah, no, I can definitely help you at least get started. I can't help you with all of it because that's a lot.
I wouldn't. No, I don't think I'm not there yet. I want to get the books out there and get, I'd love more group coaching but yeah, I think it'd be fun to do a podcast too.
Yeah, especially if you enjoy it. They'd be easy to get moms and, just families in general, involved in coming on and talking about their story, and especially people that you work with.
Well, that's
personally.
What I'm thinking of some that, and they're my young adults that I would love. I mean, I just their experiences. And then I'm kind of validating it because I look at it not from a parent, but also from a professional, or as a teacher who taught during that tough time. where the messaging was so succeed, succeed, succeed. And it's like, this kid has ADHD, and, you know, you're asking them to perform at this level that these other kids, it's not fair, you know? Just acknowledge it and, like, find their path. That's all I'm saying. So that's where the pain, I think, is coming from. A lot of it.
And more voices that talk about it, the more understanding about it.
Yeah. And from different age groups, right? Like, that's where I think is part of my uniqueness, is that I listened to the kids. I really, really listened to them. And even my own, when they're like, Mom, you know, this or that, I was like, oh, she's got a point. And I wish my parents would have listened to me. You know, you don't get to run the show, but I'll take that input. Because the stuff we're doing wasn't always helping. It was hurting, you know?
Yeah.
So getting their viewpoint, I think, maybe that's what I would do.
Listening and understanding goes a long way.
Yeah, just validating. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to kind of round it out with some type of message you want to leave with everyone?
Yeah, I think so. If you are struggling with, you know, some kind of behavior on the eating disorder spectrum, whatever it may be, or some kind of anxiety or stress or perfectionism, then reach out and know that you're not alone. I just see so much like a sigh of relief when people connect. And it's often the last thing you want to do when you're hurting, but it's the thing that can help you the most. And look me up, because I love to help clients on this and this information.
And she's going to send me all of her information, so it'll be in the description.
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, kind of telling your story, sharing a lot of great information. I love the conversation. I feel like we went back and forth really well on this stuff, and we're very eye to eye.
Yeah, totally. I love that too. I knew just by the name of your podcast. I'm like, that fits me, messy.
Yeah, it was a great podcast. I loved it. And maybe I'll have you on again. Later on. All right, until next time, guys. Bye.